Hello, and welcome back for another episode of Financial Freedom by 40. My name is Kellie, and we are a Kiwi family of four who are about to embark on an epic adventure around Australia in our brand new Jayco All Terrain Caravan. So, in last week's episode, we took you with us on our shakedown and preparation trip and told you some of the things that we did while we were over in Australia recently to get ready for our big trip. In this week's episode, we're going to run you through our list of things that we needed to kit out the caravan. So, some of those things we bought when we were over in Australia, other things we have taken over from home, or we will be taking over from home when we come over in a few weeks' time. There were some things that we thought we needed that we didn't end up buying, and there were other things that we still plan to buy but we haven't quite gotten into yet. So, we'll talk you through those. We'll also take you through some of the specific items that we did buy, and then we're going to talk about some of the shops we went to, because as Kiwis coming to Australia, we found it a little bit challenging getting our heads around where to buy specific things. So if you're new to Australia, you might find that helpful too. Let's dive in. So one of the first things we did was that we created a list of all of the things that we thought we needed for the caravan. So we did this before we went over to Australia. We spent some time running through lists that other people had done, watching YouTube videos about people kitting out their caravans, and just general things that we thought that we would need to have for our caravan, some personal things we wanted to take with us. And then we obviously went over there and did all the shopping and got a bit more of a feel for the kinds of things that we needed. So I can run you through what we ended up buying and what we didn't end up buying, and there will be some additional things that we will have added to this list, as this was the list that we did initially. So bit of changes from there, but I will run you through everything. So a lot of the stuff that we bought was just standard household items. So kitting out a caravan really is much like kitting out your home. So a lot of the things that we bought were things that perhaps if you were living in Australia, if you're from Australia, you might have a lot of these items already at your home that you can use. But coming from overseas, we had to buy everything just about new. We did have a list that we split off as a take list of things that we could bring from home. But obviously, traveling from New Zealand, we're fairly limited to the amount of stuff we can take with us, and also limited in the weight that we can take over. I mean, we could have freighted stuff over, but it didn't really make sense. Most of these things you can buy fairly cheaply in Australia. So the obvious stuff like salt and pepper grinders, frying pans, stackable pots was something we thought we would get. You can get these sort of camping pots that the handles come off and you can stack them all together. We didn't end up buying stackable pots. We just bought regular pots, partly because it's fairly inexpensive. And once we saw the inside of the caravan, we realized we would have space for just regular pots. We just bought a regular frying pan and a cast iron one as well that we can use inside and outside. The salt and pepper grinders, we realized after the fact that we probably would have been better off just to have bought the ones at the supermarket that already have the salt and pepper in, but we did buy those at the shops. Coffee mugs came as part of a kit that we got that had the plates and bowls in. It was a bamboo kit that we bought. I think it was from BCF. I'll find that and show you later. Cups we bought. So we bought plastic cups. So, just in terms of caravans and being moving all the time, we didn't want to buy glassware that may break. So we just bought the sort of camping travel type plastic cups. Cutlery, we just bought a standard cutlery set from I think Kmart or Big W. Then storage containers, Tupperware containers for putting all our food in, just regular stuff that we bought from Big W. Then we do a lot of baking and cooking, so mixing cups, spoons, grater, baking trays. So we got caught out on the baking trays. There's one thing for you to check out is that some of the standard size baking trays are just a little bit too big for the oven in the caravan. So measure your oven to make sure your baking trays fit, because the first baking trays that I bought were too big for the oven, so we had to go and get some smaller ones. And another thing too, the oven came with only one rack in it. There's definitely space to put an extra one in. So when we go back to Australia, we will buy a second, the actual metal rack that comes with the oven. There was only one, so you can buy a second one. So we will buy one of those. Just means that when we're cooking, what we realized when we were over there was that if we only had the one tray, we couldn't fit that much stuff in the oven at the same time. So if you wanted to fit multiple trays of food in there, then you had to have another rack. And so I think that'll be quite important for us when we're traveling and cooking and baking. Microwave things. We didn't buy anything, I don't think, too fancy for microwave dishes. What we did buy was we bought storage containers that were like a Pyrex kind of dish. So they're glass on the bottom, but they had a lid that you can click on, I think a plastic lid that you can click on them. So we thought that those would be kind of multiple purpose because they can be microwaved, they can go in the oven, they can be used for storing food, etc. So that was something we thought to try and be multi-purpose. I mean, we only have so much space, so the more multi-purpose items we can get, the better. Ice trays, just the regular household stuff. Chopping boards, we just bought little lightweight ones from Kmart. They were really, like a set of them were really cheap. All the other regular household stuff. Now, vacuum sealer. So because we will be doing a fair bit of remote travel where it won't always be easy for us to use, to do a lot of cooking, we will actually do the cooking when we're at a campground. So when I say it won't be easy, I mean we have the gas oven, etc., to be able to cook, but we just thought it will save us a lot of water usage. So when you cook a full meal, you'll have pots and pans and lots of dishes. And if we pre-prepare, for example, a spaghetti bolognese, when we're at a campground, we can make a big batch of spaghetti bolognese and make all the mess at the camp kitchen, clean it up, wash all the dishes there while we have readily available water, so that when we're off grid and we're sort of trying to be a bit careful about water usage, that we actually already have meals that we can either microwave or just heat up in one pot. So that we've got a vacuum sealer at home and we're taking that over with us, and we'll use that while we're over there and freeze those meals down. So we'll let you know how that all goes. The shower drain, I have long hair, and all of all of our drains get blocked up with my long hair. So you can get this little stickery thing that just goes over the plug hole in the caravan and catches the hair. They come in a pack. I don't know how many there were, but there were a number of them in a pack that we just got them from Bunnings. And yeah, it stops the hair from going down the drain and blocking up the pipes, etc. So if you're long-haired, then probably a good idea to get one of those because it's a pain in the backside if you have to unblock it, I believe. Then we bought these Fusion Lock products. So they're like a little suction, well, they have suction pads that go on the walls of the caravan and hold up things. So we bought ones for hanging towels. We bought ones for putting in the shower for hanging our putting all of our personal like body washes and soaps and things into. We got some for holding the toothbrushes. So they're quite handy. And what I would say though is we bought a cheaper brand of them to try. They were kind of a cheaper version that we thought we'd use for hanging up jackets and raincoats, etc. But we tried to hang those within the caravan and we found that they didn't stick particularly well to the caravan surfaces. They stuck all right if it was like a really, really smooth surfaces, but some of the surfaces are a little bit textured and they would not take on those surfaces. And when I say textured, they're really no more textured than your kitchen cabinets would be. So yeah, I don't really know that those will be that good. They might stick all right to glass, but that's obviously a bit useless. So definitely the Fusion Lock ones seem to have worked really well and stuck on really well. And they stayed stuck once we moved the caravan. So like once we've been on the road, they stuck. So yeah, I can talk a bit more about those as the travels go on, because once we hit corrugations and the like, we'll really get to test them out. But so far, so good. We did buy a small gas cooker. The reason why we did that was it just gives us an extra element if we're cooking outside and we want to, boil up water outside, or if we want to take it on a hike or anything where we want to be able to heat up water. It also gives you just a backup option. So they just have the little canisters that you can buy from camp shops. And you can probably get them from Bunnings as well. And we've just chucked that in the caravan as well. Water bottles, we're just talking about drink bottles. So we have a lot of those at home. So we'll take some of those probably over with us. and we bought a couple while we were over there to make sure we had heaps. The dishwashing rack, I will show you what we ended up buying. So you can get collapsible ones, and they are a really handy thing to have for a caravan. If you had a household dish rack, you've got to find somewhere to put it. So the collapsible ones, just like a plastic and rubber shape, they can collapse down flat and really easily store in the cupboards. So we did the same thing with the laundry basket. We bought a collapsible laundry basket, which I will show you, because those things, when space is at a premium, it's really helpful. I would say though, there were loads of different collapsible things that you could buy if you really wanted to. You could go all out with the collapsible stuff. There's collapsible bowls, jugs, just about anything. I'll show you shortly, but they I didn't really feel like it was necessary to get all of those things. I think they were collapsible, even collapsible pots. That might be necessary if you were doing a lot of hiking or if you had a really small van. But for our family size van, we didn't feel like it was necessary to get all the collapsible things. But some things definitely, like the washing basket and the dish rack, was definitely worth it. Over this side, so caravan items, we were going to buy a coffee machine. We did decide in the end not to. So with the caravan, we're trying to minimize the number of 240-volt appliances we have in the caravan. Reason being is that they do chew the batteries really fast. So we did just buy a little one of those silver coffee pots that go on the gas top. They make really nice coffee, and we're coffee snobs, so I can recommend those. We did buy a little hand vacuum cleaner, just a Ryobi one from Bunnings. The plastic tables we got from Bunnings, they were relatively cheap ones. We'll see how they go. I think they were about $60 each. A lot of the fancy camping ones are really expensive, and we, just being budget conscious, we decided that we weren't going to end up buying a $300 or $400 camping table. So we just bought those sort of fold up plastic ones. If they prove to be annoying, we might end up swapping them out for something better, but they were, way cheaper than anything else. We bought two of them, so we've got one to sit at and then an extra one, like for putting things on while we're cooking. The chairs I'll show you we got from Jayco. I think they're available more widely, but they were a reasonable price at Jayco. Barbecue, that was an important thing for us. So we did go to Weber and we bought a BBQ barbecue. But Ryan's from South Africa, if you didn't know already, and cooking on charcoal is a big thing. So we have a Weber charcoal barbecue at home. It's amazing. That's why it says braai, because it's the South African word. And we, after a week or so of cooking on the gas barbecue, Ryan was a bit sad to not have a charcoal option. So we have now bought a little, it's a fire pit that also has a grill on the top. I'll show you that as well, so that we do have the option of having some charcoal cooked meat when we feel like that. I think otherwise Ryan will go mental missing his nice barbecue. Hair dryer, I did end up just taking I had a little travel hair dryer from home, and I've left that in the caravan. The issue I would say with the one that I have is, again, it's a 240-volt one, so when batteries are low, we might not be able to use it. I mean, I don't worry too much when it's warm about a hair dryer anyway, so we probably won't use it that often, and can use it at campgrounds. But you can buy a 12-volt hair dryer. So if you were buying one, I would probably recommend buying a 12-volt hair dryer, so that you can use it in the caravan easily without having to worry about the batteries. Then same story with the kettle and toaster. So we were given a toaster, and that is a 240-volt toaster. Works absolutely fine in the caravan, but we plugged it in to test it and see how it went, and it used 3% of the battery to toast 2 pieces of toast. So if you were off grid, you wouldn't exactly want to be doing that. And kettle, we actually haven't bought one yet, but we're going to buy a gas kettle for the same reason. So we'll probably get one of those little gas toasters, which I will show you what they look like. They're not the greatest for making toast. We've used one over the years from camping and boating, but both the toaster and kettle, we decided we're going to go for gas options just to conserve the electricity. We bought a stick blender, mini blender. Part of that is just for making things like curry pastes, and I guess if you really wanted to, you could make a mini smoothie in it, but it's a pretty small one. Again, 240-volt power, so We'll use that from time to time, but I don't know how often we'll use it. But will probably come in handy when we're prepping meals in a camp kitchen. The first aid kit, we ended up buying one from St. John. It's a fairly comprehensive first aid kit, and in addition, we bought the snake bandages as well to add to the first aid kit. We learned all about that on a first aid course that we did with St. John, and the tutor recommended this particular first aid kit. It really, I mean, chances are it'll end up being an overkill for what we end up needing, but you'd rather have it than not have it. And the other thing we added to the first aid kit was a splint. So it didn't come with that. So a splint just in case we end up with any injuries that require that. Muck mats, I'll show you what we bought, but muck mat is a brand, but it's a type of kind of like it's almost like fake grass, but it stops the well, you can use it like a mat on each level of the caravan. So you put one outside the door, you put one on the step, one on the internal step, and you can get another one for just inside the door. And the idea is that they help catch all of the sand and dirt from going in the caravan because as you will know if you're beachy people, when you get sand on the floor you have that horrible feeling of sand under your feet and you don't want sand in the beds. So the muck mats try and keep as much of the dirt as possible outside. We also bought one of these mats. I'm not sure if this is the brand we ended up buying. The idea of the mat is it's a big floor mat that goes underneath the awning, and that'll hopefully also help prevent some of the sand and dirt from getting inside. We haven't yet bought a flexible water tank, but we'll do that when we go back to Australia. Picnic mat, we don't have at present. We may end up taking one from home because we've got a few of those. Cast iron pot, we haven't actually bought a big cast iron pot yet. But we probably will. I've noticed a lot of the traveling families use big cast iron pots on their campfires to cook on, and so that might be kind of handy to get. We didn't buy a shade tent or umbrella at this stage. We're going to see how we go with that. While we were over there, we decided that it felt like we were spending a lot of money and we decided to try and cut back on some things. We have one at home. We won't take that over though because we wouldn't want to take too much dust and dirt and sand from New Zealand with us. So we've left that off. Now, the pegless clothesline, we are a bit undecided on this at the moment. Um, we're looking to get something that we can add to the awning. So if anyone has any hot tips on clotheslines, that would be helpful. I mean, the campgrounds seem to have them, but when we're in more remote areas, we will need to have our own clothesline. We haven't decided on a solution for that, but there were a couple that you could add onto the awning. I'm not overly keen on making holes in the awning, so I prefer it to be something that you could just clip on, but we'll work that out when we get back as well. As I mentioned, we did buy a collapsible laundry basket. We decided not to buy a slow cooker. Reason being, again, it's a 240-volt thing, and just we kind of can imagine if the toaster uses 3% of the battery, what a slow cooker would use running all day. Maybe not too much. So we'll see how we go. And it would be fine to use if we were at a campground and the caravan's plugged in. Stackable plastic bins. I don't think we bought those while we were there. Maybe, we bought a couple of just plastic tubs for throwing stuff in. So, anything that could be messy or leak. If we've been fishing or swimming, we'd buy a couple of plastic but bins to throw things in, and we might end up getting some more fish bin type tubs to just for storage, stop things rolling around, and particularly things like water, anything that could leak to save messes, we'll probably end up putting into storage bins. We did buy a 15 amp extension lead. Little tip on that one, make sure you get the longest one you can because we discovered that the one we bought really wasn't long enough at one of the campgrounds. The power was quite far away from where our campsite was, so not, we're kind of used to having at least in New Zealand, the campsites we've stayed at, the power for your site has been really close to where you have your caravan or your vehicle. So in this case, there was sort of a communal pole a bit further away, and so we ended up while we were away having to go and buy another extension lead to reach far enough. So don't try and scrimp and save on that by buying a shorter lead, just buy the longest one and then you know that it'll reach. We bought walkie-talkies. Now the walkie-talkies are kind of handy for when you're parking the caravan, so Ryan and I can talk to each other, that whoever's driving can talk to the person who's outside of the caravan. The kids thought they were great fun too, so the main thing with those I think will be making sure they stay charged. Hose pipe, again, we bought just a little hose pipe just for doing cleaning. We bought a drinking hose. We got caught out on the length of that as well. The drinking hose wasn't quite long enough, so we ended up buying an extra one so we could connect the two. So yeah, same as the extension lead. Just try and buy one that's reasonably long so that you can reach those further away um, hoses for refilling the caravan with your potable water. Fire alarm and gas detector. So those actually came with the caravan, so we didn't need to buy those things. Rubbish bin is something that's been a bit of a mission. We bought a little tiny rubbish bin that fits inside one of the cupboards on the caravan, but it's it is really tiny. It's kind of more like a little desktop type rubbish bin, and um, I'm not sure it's going to be a long term solution because you'll fill it up every meal probably with a family. So we haven't entirely decided on what we're going to do about a rubbish bin unless we're just going to see how that goes. A fire blanket we bought just for safety, obviously. We haven't bought an additional solar panels. We've got the solar panels on the caravan. We also have a solar panel on the top of our car. We've heard of people buying solar blankets to boost their power, particularly in situations where you are in a campground where you're a little bit shaded and your solar panel on the caravan isn't getting enough sun. But we might just see how we go because from what we've seen so far, the caravan seems to charge pretty well. And we don't know if that will be needed, but while we're traveling down the east coast of Australia, we'll be going through plenty of larger towns and we'll have the option to buy one if we decide that that is needed. Awning lights. Well, our awning actually came with an LED strip in it, so we haven't bought anything additional for that. There are plenty of outdoor lights on the caravan itself. We did have a couple of additional lights added to the caravan externally, so I don't think we need to buy anything additional for the awning. We haven't yet bought jerry cans, so we'll need jerry cans to carry extra fuel. And there is space on the caravan to add a couple of jerry cans for water, which we will get. We're still trying to decide which option to go for. The least expensive option is to get UV suitable plastic cans. So we might go try a couple of those out and see how that goes. We bought the fire pit now. We did buy a spare, just a cheap one for any situations where we needed to cover something up. Just a cheap one from Bunnings. We did buy the anti-flap kit for the awning, basically kind of like tie downs to and pegs to tie it down to the ground when we're camping. Mattress toppers we haven't yet bought, but we probably will when we go back. We're looking at the Dreamer RV ones. They're not the cheapest, but they have really good reviews. So I'll have a look at. We might get one. Xavier was complaining that his mattress wasn't comfy enough. He's quite. He's one who likes to be really snuggly, and we found that our bed was comfortable enough. And Oliver thought his was fine too, but we might order one for Xavier and see how he goes with his one and what we think of his one. I think they're about $199 each, so it'll cost us quite a bit if we buy the whole lot for the family. Buckets, we just bought buckets from Bunnings, just a plain old Bunnings bucket. We bought the leveling blocks and ramps. Now, this is just because not every campsite is level, so we put these under the wheels to make sure that the caravan's sitting level. We have a little spirit level that we have in the caravan, so that shows you where we are on level. And we use those at a couple of the campgrounds we stayed at to get the caravan nice and level. It's really uncomfortable if the caravan is tilting a particular, like wrong way when you're camping. Like if your feels like you're rolling down the hill, then it's quite uncomfortable. Privacy screen, there is a screen to go on the outside of your awning so that it goes from the edge of the awning down to the ground. We haven't bought one yet. We're going to see how we go with that. Give us a bit of shade and a bit of privacy, but we will see if we feel like we need that. I didn't feel like we did at the campgrounds we stayed at last time. So, like I say, we can add things if we have to. Reflective triangle high-vis jacket. I don't think we've bought those yet, but we will get those when we go back. Fire extinguisher. We have bought a fire extinguisher for the vehicle. The caravan came with one in it. Now, EPIRB, we haven't bought an EPIRB yet. I think we'll probably so an EPIRB is an emergency beacon. So you often travel with them when you're boating. and it basically sends a signal out to emergency services if you are in trouble and you need help. And so it gives your location so that emergency services are aware that you have an issue and you need help. Um, we talked about these in our first remote area first aid course, and the tutor talked about getting personal locator beacon. I think that's probably what we will go for, because we can take a personal locator beacon with us when we go on hikes and carry that easily with us. So I think we'll get that rather than an EPIB. We will most likely get Starlink in the caravan. So that will give us the option of having, I guess, effectively like what would be a satellite communication. We probably won't buy a satellite phone. We were umming and ahhing about whether we needed one of those for when we're in remote places, but because we'll have the Starlink, if we needed to communicate, we will have the Starlink satellite communication. We did buy some ropes, just bits and pieces of ropes of different sizes and thickness in case we need them for tying things down or towing. We haven't bought a shovel yet, but we will. An eco compressor we have in the vehicle for pumping up tires. Some of these things are just spare bits and pieces. So things like wheel bearings, nuts and bolts, electrical wires and crimps, fan belts, coolant, motor oil, hose clips. These are all little things that you could break. And it's quite common for these sorts of things to break when you're out and about on corrugations. And we want to just have lots of spare pieces so that we can fix things. Ryan's an engineer by trade, so he is kind of handy when it comes to fixing things. And so, yeah, we'll just carry all of the things that we need to do minor repairs on the vehicle while we're traveling about. Then we did buy a battery drill and light. So just your regular home 12-volt battery drill and light. We bought those set of tools where you have those interchangeable batteries. The one thing I would say is the batteries are quite heavy, and if you need to charge them, and so charging batteries in a caravan park would be a really good idea. We tested it out to see how much battery it would use if we charged the 12-volt batteries in drill battery in the caravan. And I think it used about 20% of our battery power. So not really worth it charging it in the caravan unless you desperately needed to, but worth charging them up when you're somewhere where you have 240-volt power. Obviously carrying torches, an axe for trimming, for cutting firewood, or if we need to do cut back branches. We did buy we've got a handsaw, and we also bought a electric cutting saw, saber saw, I think it's called, for cutting back any tree branches that cause us troubles. Some people carry a chainsaw as well, but we did talk to another traveler who said that they use a saber saw and that's been adequate for their purposes. So again, I think we'll try and make do with the handsaw and the saber saw and see how we go. And then apart from that, lots of just regular tools that you would have at home. Most of those we just bought over there from Bunnings. And yeah, lots of little bits and pieces. Now we haven't bought the Max Tracks yet. So the Max Tracks are part of your recovery gear. I'll show you what we plan to get. We've got a winch, and we've got the appropriate straps to help us tow ourselves out if we get stuck anywhere. But we haven't yet bought the Max Tracks to help us get traction on sand or mud. So I'll show you those as well. And then other just little bits and pieces like tapes and glues and thread lock, just little bits and pieces to help the maintenance of the caravan should anything go wrong. And then over here on the take list, so there were some things that we had at home that we wanted to take with us. So we've all got snorkeling gear and wetsuits. Rather than buying new, we took that over with us when we went to Australia last time. Ryan took over his fishing reels. We obviously didn't take fishing rods. That would have been a bit harder to transport over on an airplane, so we'll buy some new rods over there. I think Ryan's decided that his fishing lures he'll end up just leaving behind and buying new ones over there. a socket set from the garage. Ryan's going to take one of those over with him. We bought a multimeter over there. We were going to take the boys, they've got collapsible scooters, helmets, skateboard, and pads. We've got a bag that can carry all of those sorts of sports equipment. But I think we've decided that we won't take those with us. We just it's really a bit too much stuff to take, and we do wonder at campgrounds how much that they will end up using them. So it's a lot of effort to cart them over if we don't end up using them. This black screwdriver and bits, it's a kind of handy tool that Ryan has that it's like a screwdriver that in the end has all different bits. So it'll have like a Phillips screwdriver, a square drive, etc., all different shapes of bits. Flat blade in it, and then you can just leave it in the car for if you need to do quick little changes of things. Quite a handy tool to have. We bought another one over there rather than taking the one from home. We were going to take tennis rackets. Again, it's just too much stuff to take over, so we're going to leave those behind. If we wanted to, we just buy some cheap ones while we're over there. Knives. So again, like because we're big cooking fans, we've got some fancy cooking knives. We took a couple over last time, and we'll take the rest of them over with us this time and leave just cheaper ones in our house. We got again some of these fancy tools, garlic crusher, etc. We ended up buying new ones over there rather than taking the ones from home. Ryan would take his filleting knives for fishing. Obviously, we'll take our own wet weather jackets, and we've got puffer jackets too. Then all the boys' school stuff has to go over with us. We took a lot of that over last time. We will take more this time. And then linen, we tried to take as much linen from home as possible. So we have lots of towels and sheets at home. We took those with us. We did end up buying some bed sheets while we were over there, and blankets. Blankets, obviously, for practical reasons, it wasn't possible to take blankets from home. Would have taken up an entire bag just taking one blanket. So we bought blankets over there, and we ended up having to buy a set of sheets for each bed because on the caravan specifications, it said linen was included, but the only linen that wasn't included was the duvet cover on the queen size bed. So we had to buy duvet covers for the boys' beds and sheets for all of us. Wet bags. So we have a number of wet bags at home. We took those over for boating and hiking, just to put phones and cameras in to make sure they stay dry. Lunch boxes and drink bottles we have at home, so taking those with us. We'll take those on the plane with snacks for the boys anyway, so it's not too much of a drama to take them. We've got barbecue thermometers for Ryan's fancy barbecue cooking, so we'll take those with us. And cookbooks. So because we've got specific recipes, we've got a Weber cookbook, Edmund's cookbook, and I'm a big fan of Chelsea Winter's recipes and also Nadia Lim. So what I've done is I've actually just scanned and printed the recipes that we use on a regular basis so that we don't have to take giant cookbooks with us. I'm just taking the recipes that are our favorites that we can use while we're over there in a little folder. So to save a bit of space with that, but also, make sure we can take some of our favorites from home. Other things, so essential medicines, just a box of stuff we have in our kitchen, kind of like a first aid kit, which we'll take with us. We have a big map we've got hanging on our wall. You might have seen in some of our videos, so that we'll fold up and take with us, take it out of the frame. Boys have taken various board games, stationery, books with them, some toys and things from their rooms. We've taken over some of our camera gear already, and we've still got more to come with us. We bought the Lonely Planet Book of Australia, so that's already gone. It's waiting for us in the caravan. DVDs, you might think that's funny, but there is a DVD player in the TV in the caravan, so we've got lots of kids' DVDs back from when DVDs were a thing. So we're going to take some of those over for the boys to watch some of their favorites when we go over there. And then other stuff, iPads, USB stick, computer, etc. Just the bits and bobs that we need for homeschooling and for creating our videos. We have diffusers for the boys, essential oils diffusers. So they use those a lot when they're sick. We'll take one of those over with us as well. So that's our list of things that we have put together. The majority of it has either gone to Australia or we've bought over there. So pretty well on our way with this list, but just the few things that I mentioned that we also want to buy or will not buy because we've decided that it's just not necessary, and we'll see how we go without it. We did also buy a map to stick up in the caravan, so it's something like this. I can't find the exact one that we bought, but it looks very much like this that we've put up inside of the caravan. And we've also ordered a really big one to go on the back of the caravan from HEMA Maps. So that will be really cool when it arrives, and we'll put our Instagram handle on the back of the caravan too. So anybody who wants to follow our trip can find us. Then these are the muck mats I said I'd show you. So we ended up buying this one, which goes on the fold out step for the caravan. We bought a large one for inside of the caravan, and then we ended up going back and buying one for the floor outside of the caravan. We didn't buy the little one like this that goes in the little cutout step inside the caravan, but we will go back and buy it because otherwise the little carpeted step in the caravan is going to end up filthy dirty. These are the max tracks that I was talking about. So they just help you get out of a bind. You can see the picture there. If you get stuck in mud or stuck in sand, you can put them under the wheels and get them out. So we will buy those when we get back to Australia and figure out how to mount them on the vehicle. A lot of people mount them on the roof up here. This is, I thought I'd just quickly show you the plumbing situation with pipes and that. So this is a 20-meter hose. We ended up, I think we originally bought the 10-meter hose down here. So it's not a heck of a lot of difference in price, but it was necessary to have the longer hose. So I would just invest in the longer hose if I was to do it again. A few other things we got I thought I'd show you. So we ended up buying a inline water filter just to make sure that the water that we have going into our caravan is really nice and clean. We ended up, I think it might have been this one we've got a waste hose to help us drain the wastewater out of the caravan. And then we bought bags as well. So we ended up buying some color coordinated bags so that we've got our various different hoses, so our fresh water, our grey water, etc., and they all come in different bags. So we make sure that the hoses all stay clean. I mean, it's pretty obvious which is which, but just to keep them all nice and tidy and packed up and clean, they all have their own little bags. And then, of course, there's lots of other little fittings you can get. So it's good to have things, all the different little fittings and hose fittings, so that you've got them if you need to connect up to different hose ends, different taps. Even just your standard water tap fitting is good to have, because we found that sometimes you needed to be able to just screw on your own end, so you could plug your hose onto the end. So just making sure you have all those little plumbing bits and pieces, which some of which you can just get at a regular hardware store like Bunnings. Then this is the leveling ramp kit that we've got. So it has the little pads that go underneath the caravan stabilizer arm legs when they go down, and then these are your treads that go underneath your tires. So they sit up like this under the caravan and make you nice and level when you're on an unlevel ground surface. I didn't mention this before, but we did buy one of these. We saw these Kovix caravan locks talked about on the YouTube channel Sarah and Kellie Travels, and so we decided to buy one of these. It's an alarmed trailer lock, so if we have to leave the caravan anywhere where we're not going to be with it, then we can put one of these on, and if anyone tries to take it off the ball of the caravan, then, or the hitch of the caravan, sorry, it will go off. So being from New Zealand, a lot of the shops in Australia aren't familiar to us, so it took us a little bit of figuring out to know where to go to buy everything that we needed for the caravan. So Kmart was one of the first places that we went to. Already being familiar for us, Kmart was an easy choice, and they have obviously lots of different things. So we got a lot of the kitchen bits and pieces from Kmart. They're relatively cost effective and lots of lightweight and easy to use, easy to buy options from Kmart. So we got heaps of stuff from Kmart to get us going. The other place which we weren't as familiar with, was Big W. So it's kind of similar to Kmart. Has more things in some areas, and we found the pricing to be really good. So lots of options on everything from appliances to kitchenware to storage, all sorts of different things. And one thing that we found was it was definitely worth shopping around. So we had been to IKEA and a few other homeware stores before we ended up going to Big W, and we regretted it afterwards because a lot of very similar stuff was available there for pretty cheap. And we did find that they have a lot of specials. So you can see what they've got on special here at the moment, but some things that we actually did multiple trips over the the couple of weeks we were shopping, and we found that some things that we bought one week were actually cheaper a little bit later. So it can be worth shopping around a little bit if you've got the time to do that. So I mean, you could go in store and figure out what you wanted, and then if you've got a gap like we have, you could just order it online and have it delivered so that you get it at a better price. So that was another one that we did quite a bit of shopping at was Big W. And while I'm here, I thought I would show you that some of the stuff like we went to some of the camping and outdoors stores first, and they had things like we wanted a collapsible washing basket was one of the things, and they were a bit pricier at the camping and outdoor stores. We kind of found that anything that had camping or boating or anything like that in the name was a bit more expensive. And we went to, I can't remember actually where we ended up buying our basket from, but they had very similar ones at places like Big W and Kmart. So this one might have been this one that we got, I'm not certain, but washing basket, the collapsible one, I think it was about $20 or $30 cheaper than buying it at a camping store. So I would shop around for sure. You could go to the camping stores and see what they've got. They might be slightly better quality, I'm not sure, but they seemed very similar to us. So we ended up buying one, something like this. You can see Kmart's got similar things, also quite cheap. So worth shopping around and going to some of those stores first. As I said, we went to IKEA. We don't have an IKEA in New Zealand, and I found it quite overwhelming. There was just so much stuff, and it was so big. So they did have a lot of the same kitchen items, but um, some of them were a bit more expensive than Kmart or Big W. I mean, we didn't spend a lot of time there because it was just so big and so busy that it was easier for us just to shop at those other stores. Coming from overseas, I found that this shop, Harris Scarf, was actually quite good for homewares things. I bought pots and pans from here. I bought some of the linen and blankets from there. So this was kind of similar to some of the shops that we have at home. And then this one as well. This is Bed Bath and Table. We have this in New Zealand, but this was quite good for buying blankets from. I think I got the blankets from here. They were pretty good quality and reasonably cheap. I found that the sheets were more expensive than at Harris Scarf, so I got our sheets from there. Then camping stores. So Anaconda was one that we spent a bit of time at. We got our muck mats from Anaconda. The muck mats to help keep the muck, sand and dirt out of the caravan. And we still managed to get a fair bit in there, but would have been a whole heap worse without the muck mat steps. Again, it's a bit like Briscoe's in New Zealand. They always seem to have a sale on, so pays to wait until they have a sale to buy some things. But we got a bit of stuff from Anaconda as well. Then BCF as well. BCF's another big outdoor store, and they have a lot of camping type equipment. They have a lot of fishing gear. Some stuff we'll end up going back and getting from there. We probably will get our recovery gear, four-wheel drive gear from there, but they do have a lot of caravan gear. And oh, look, it's a Jayco All Terrain. Of course, we had to go and get a barbecue, so we ended up going to Weber and buying I think it's a BBQ barbecue. You'll no doubt see it in action while we're traveling around. So I went to the Weber store, and then Super Cheap. So we've got Super Cheap here in New Zealand, and Super Cheap had a lot of the equipment that we needed and also tools. So we spent a bit of money at Super Cheap as well, and it was quite handy to have something that was quite similar to what we have here in New Zealand. But hopefully, if you're coming from outside of Australia, it's helpful to know some of the stores. And I would definitely say it is worth your while hitting up shops like Kmart and Big W, particularly Big W. We found had a lot of what we needed, and we probably would have saved ourselves decent chunk of money if we had have gone there first. One thing, for example, was that we had gone and bought our glassware, well, plastic glasses and bamboo dishes from a camping store, and we probably could have got them a bit cheaper if we had have bought them from somewhere like Big W or Kmart. They had very similar ones that were a bit cheaper. So you live, you learn, but worth looking around before you actually pay for stuff. So I hope you found that helpful if you are looking at planning a trip and wondering what on earth you need for your caravan. Of course, we'll do a little bit of an update later on down the track once we are on our trip and we get really clear on what it is that we've needed, what we've found useful, and maybe some things that we didn't end up actually using. So stay tuned for that. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to either touch base with us on social media or leave a comment on YouTube. You can find us at Financial Freedom by 40 in all of those places. And we would love for you to follow along on the journey with us. So make sure you hit subscribe and help us grow our online community. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing week, and we will see you again for our next episode next week on Friday.